What up, y'all? Core here. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about branding. This is something that's become very near and dear to my heart as I continue to have more and more conversations with clients and realizing that they try to do the website and the marketing and the advertisements before they do one very crucial step, and that is to figure out their brand and who they are and what they stand for. And before we get too deep in this episode, I want to start by clarifying what a brand even is and what that even means. Because most people think that it's the logo, the typography, the images, the coloring, the website oftentimes. And although those are all pieces of a brand, that's not actually what a brand is. It's also not your product or your service. People think that I bought this brand, this iPhone or this Tesla, or even a Coca-Cola. But again, that's really not the brand either. That's just a product or a service. A brand is really a fancy way of saying reputation. And the crazy thing is that we all have a reputation and therefore we all have a brand. And so it's really important that we consider what that even is and what we're trying to portray to the world. I actually, not that long ago, gave a presentation about this exact topic of understanding the difference between a business brand and a personal brand. That's a podcast episode for another day. But really what I want to clarify on this episode specifically are what is a brand and what are the three essentials to creating a really sexy and compelling brand. And so back to that point about a brand is really reputation, it's also that gut feeling that somebody gets about you or your product or your service. It's something that is made up in their mind or in their head that they have determined that they like or don't like for whatever reason. So in reality, there's actually thousands and possibly millions of versions of your brand, whether it's your business or your personal brand. And so one of my favorite examples of this is actually Seth Godin, the guru of marketing, talks about if Nike was to open a hotel, you probably have a very good idea of what that would look like. Even me just saying those words, you're probably already like, okay, it would probably be black, would probably be the main color. It'd be sleek, it'd be cool. There'd be some athletic attire. There'd probably be some Air Force Ones in a box in a clear window on some shelf somewhere. Maybe when you checked into your hotel room that there would be a basketball hoop in the corner where you could shoot shots or something. I don't know. I'm just making this up. But my point is that Nike has done such a good job of giving you this idea and this representation and this gut feeling about who they are and what they do and what they stand for, that even if I just say a hotel made by Nike, you already have an idea what they're about. And that is the point, and that is the advantage of having a really strong brand and why everybody should be considering this, because it is really your reputation, and I'd be willing to bet that you want to have a good reputation, because if you do, then people are more likely to buy your products and services. And so the three things that I want to get into on today's episode as to how to build a really good brand is, number one is to understand your identity, number two is to understand the experience, and number three is to understand your values. I would say number three is probably the most important, so definitely wait until the end of this episode for when I get to that one. But let's get into those three things as to how to build a really good, strong, and effective brand. All right, the first thing I want to talk about is to understand your brand identity. So I just recently stumbled upon a business called Pink's Window Service, and I got to tell you, it is one of the most brilliant things I've ever seen from a branding standpoint for what one could consider is actually a very boring business. They just do window cleaning services, which isn't anything particularly special, obviously, but the way that they've done it is honestly amazing. The way that they've chosen their colors, obviously it's pink and tan, it's a little bit of retro. If you look at photos or videos of them working on houses for these window services, they're all in these white shirts with I think they're jeans or blue pants with a kind of a trucker hat, and they have mustaches, and half of them have mullets. And they're very just like fun and cool, and they're out there having a good time, and all their content and all their videos has this almost sarcastic humor to it. And so it's just really, really, really smart in terms of like the feeling that I get when I look at this brand and understanding this brand identity is almost like fun, playful, sarcastic, and retro. Honestly, the person that comes to mind is Ron Burgundy, if you know who that is. And he just kind of has this like, I don't care almost attitude, but like he definitely does really good work. And so I just love it. I just thought it was genius from a branding standpoint. And I'm seeing a lot more, honestly, boring, quote unquote, businesses do this, or service-based businesses, is that they're understanding their identity, they're understanding the gap in the market, and they're building a business with this identity of kind of like cool and sleek into an industry that's normally just blue collar and boring for the most part. And so what does this mean for you? What this means for you is that step number one is to understand your identity as a brand. And one of my favorite exercises to do this is to answer one simple question. And that is, if your brand was a celebrity, who would it be? I use the example of Ron Burgundy for this Pink's window service, but what about you? Who's the celebrity that most represents what you think and feel? One that I try to tap into regularly is Ryan Reynolds. He's, again, kind of sarcastic, doesn't take life too seriously. And so oftentimes when I'm creating content or writing messaging for a website is I try to tap into Ryan Reynolds as a personality or as an identity. So this is step number one of really having a strong brand, is to understand your identity and to often just associate with some sort of celebrity that represents who you want to be. All right, step number two to a strong brand is understanding the experience. I would argue this is definitely one of the most important steps, and it's definitely probably the one that takes the most amount of work, and it's to be able to provide an experience for somebody that's just unique and special. There's actually an entire book that recently came out that talks about this exact idea. It's called Unreasonable Hospitality, and is written by a restaurateur, as he calls himself, but he created a restaurant that was the #1 restaurant in the entire world. And how did he do it? He did it by creating an amazing experience for people. One of the stories that he tells in the book is that he had the son of his father call the restaurant, letting them know that my dad is more of this like meat and potatoes kind of guy. And so this guy's restaurant is more of a high-end fancy restaurant. So his dad's coming in expecting just like, he wants just meat, potatoes. He doesn't need all the fancy stuff and the 18 courses. And so what this restaurant owner did is that he went to all the local liquor stores, I believe, and found like the Bud Lights and the Coors Lights and the Miller Lights, and basically loaded up all these domestic beers into a champagne cart and wheeled it out to him when he got there. And the guy, obviously, not surprisingly, loved it. He created a personal experience, and it created such a lasting impression for this person that obviously he continues to tell people and tells all his friends and family to go there. But my point with all this is that that's step number two of creating a really strong brand, is to create an experience that's so far beyond what they could ever imagine that they want to tell their friends and family about it. The single word that comes to mind when I'm thinking about this is a word that Seth Godin uses regularly. It's called remarkable, which basically means worth making a remark about. So that is step number two to having an incredible brand, is creating an experience for people that gives them joy and happiness and laughter maybe and fun, and just giving them, again, that gut feeling that they like what they're experiencing with working with you with your product or your service. So step number three, like I mentioned in the beginning of this episode, is by far the most important, and is to understand your values. So just like a person who has certain life values, your business or your personal brand should also have values. It's basically, what do you stand for and what do you stand against? So to go back to that Nike example, if you look at their advertisements, the athletes that they partner with, the content that they create, the type of products that they create, it is very clear what they stand for and what they stand against. Obviously, in the past, it's got them in trouble a few times. But the point is that they obviously very clearly stand for things and for against things. And that's all driven by the values that they've chosen to hold on to for their brand and their business. Nike's mission statement specifically is actually to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. If you have a body, you're an athlete. And obviously you can see that bleed through everything that they do. And here's the good news. You can do the exact same thing. You can define your values. Not only should you define your values, I think it's actually essential that you do. It's honestly the best way to cut through the noise, is to draw a line in the sand and say, this is what we do or this is what we don't do. And here's a really simple way to figure it out. This is a question that I use with my clients all the time. What do you want to be known for? Do you want to be known for the funny guy that also gets people fit? Do you want to be known for the ultra endurance athlete that never quits and never gives up? Do you want to be known for taking humanity to Mars like Elon Musk is doing? Do you want to be known for being just a very calm and present and soft-spoken individual? The cool thing is it's completely your choice. That's one of the great things about having a business, is you can make it whatever you want. But the important thing is that you choose what that is and you stick to it. Because part of having a brand is making a promise to the market and sticking to that promise. And that's how you build trust. That's how you build a reputation, is you do the things that you say you're going to do. And so just as a recap of those three things to building a really strong and effective brand, number one is to define your brand identity. And you do this by what celebrity do you want to be like? Number two is to create a remarkable experience. You go above and beyond to make your customers truly feel like this is a unique experience for them. And number three is to know your values and let that bleed through everything that you do. I hope this was helpful. I love talking about branding. I know this can be a little bit of a challenging topic. If you want more on this topic, definitely shoot me a message and I will create further episodes to help kind of clarify what it is that a brand is and how you as a business owner can create one that's really strong and really effective to continue to build and grow your business. All right, guys, much love. Talk to you soon. Peace. Hey friend, thanks for listening to the show, and if you have any feedback for me about the show or any other guests that you'd want to see in the show, definitely shoot me a message. I love engaging with my audience and figuring out how I can provide the best value possible to the people listening to this show. Before you go, I only have one ask of you, and that would be to check out my 3 Tips Tuesday newsletter. It's 3 marketing tips every Tuesday specifically for the health and fitness entrepreneur to help them attract new leads. If you press the link in the description, it'll take you directly to the archive of all my previous newsletters, and you can decide for yourself if it's something for you. If you end up finding it helpful, you can just sign up for the newsletter and you'll get it in your inbox every Tuesday. Thanks again, and keep hustling, my friends.